What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. If it's your first time coming to hang out, let me tell you what's going to go down so we can all be up on the episode. My name is Nick James, and we're going to today talk about Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. That's right, the show itself is the three topics in which we'll talk about. So in the Buds section, I pulled an article off of High Times that has to deal with the state that me and my guest are in today. In the Bros section, my guest today is himself, a podcaster, and very good at it. We're going to have some podcasting tips and podcasting chat. And in the Superheroes section, we're going to talk about Batman. Normally on this show, we kind of pick one thing to talk about, one item of media, if you will, to kind of center it around. Today, we're just kind of going to go all Batman. I got Batman facts. We're going to talk about everything Batman, really. It's going to be a little bit different, but I promise it's going to be very fun. Today's guest, let me introduce, please. I met podcasting, like that's kind of crazy, professionally. Both of us doing it, getting paid to podcast, and that was really awesome for the Nepicine podcast. He was then on the radio, Alt Natives host. You can tell us more about that, definitely in the Bros section. I'm going to stop with all the to-dos. The host of the Popko Project, Popko himself. Please, sir, thank you so much for coming and taking time and say hello.
Thanks for having me, man. This is exciting. Last time you and I chatted, it actually was you were hosting your own radio show.
Oh, yeah, Wilkes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it's good to see you again.
Yeah, really. I can't believe it's been that long. It's been a while, as I like to say around here. So thank you again for coming and hanging out. It was great. I put out on Facebook, I was like, does anybody have a podcast / interested in podcast? Like, hit me up. And I think if I really went back and looked, it was like 2 minutes, 3 minutes later, you on Facebook Messenger, Nick, this is me hitting you up. And I was like, all right, yeah, this is awesome. Okay, let's do this then. And we have the time now, and I cannot say thank you enough for coming and hanging out and taking the time. And it's going to be a great episode.
Yeah, well, thanks for rescheduling us the first time, because I kind of messed you up a little bit there, but we worked it out.
Yeah, it's going to be great, though, man. I can't wait to talk about fucking Batman a lot, too.
Yeah.
I'm always down for Batman talk.
Good.
But we will start the show the way that we always do, which is inside the Bud section. So the Bud section is for travelers of the green. We have talked about this in the past before. We're going to see if you, I'm just going to start off right away. How do you feel about traveling the green, sir?
I'm not good at it.
Dude, oh my God, thank you. I didn't want to set you up specifically, but the way I wanted to introduce you was the person who has said my favorite thing in regarding of traveling the green of themselves, I'm not good at it, and I've never heard that answer before, so thank you. That was awesome that you answered it that way.
Yeah, I'm not good at it. I mean, I'm a huge supporter and advocate for the legalization recreationally. I wish I was good at it. Maybe I just need to do it more often. Maybe that's what happens. But we'll get into that. But maybe I also need to just kind of partake in that by itself and not accompanied by other mind-altering substances. Nothing crazy, just beer. I like beer. And typically whenever I, had it, I was also had a few beers, and it just I'm not good at it.
I love that answer so much. I'm not good at it. But, kind of what we talk about here a lot specifically is the talk right now of it being a medicine, and in the fact that you can go and you can talk to a pharmacist if you choose, of course. It's everybody's own personal experience that wants them. But yeah, you can go and kind of figure out a plan if you want. And the topic that we're going to talk about today in the High Times article that I pulled here, Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman sees legal cannabis as a common sense component for America. And then the under little thing is basically the same sentence, but it says, Pennsylvania's Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman has spoken out about cannabis legalization from the start. We're not going to go through the entire thing point for point, but I do have a few things that I did want to pull out from it. First being is, do you know what a fucking lieutenant governor is?
I don't, but I mean, if that man looks like he is a lieutenant governor, I guess. Actually, when you think about government and things like that, he's actually the opposite of the typical, I think, suit and tie and all that kind of stuff. He looks badass. And if he hears this, I've extended an invitation to have him as a guest on my podcast. He has not responded.
So yeah, if he hears this, definitely jump on over to that. That would be awesome. I would love to hear that because you're right. He definitely does not fit the quote-unquote standard of what you would. It does, in fact, in this article, specifically point out that he is 6'8". And I'm like, that's a big dude. Like, that's like the mountain kind of range. Game of Thrones, like, that's big.
Yeah, big dude, shaved head, tattoos, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Says it in the article, but it doesn't show any, so none on his neck, face, or hands, so take that as you will.
That's fine. I mean, you gotta be able to hide it if you need to, I guess, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. I'm just saying, like, it's not like he's got one of those teardrops right there or anything.
Yeah, he hasn't been in prison.
He's giant, though, and he's kind of pushing this entire thing of, like, of course it's the next step. Oh, man, I didn't answer my own question. Sorry about that. He's basically vice governor. If something happens to the governor, in most cases, he'd become the governor, and he's basically vice governor is what that means.
There we go. Let's rename it. Vice Governor John Fetterman.
It would make a lot more sense. Yeah, I'm going to go with that, too. Something in the article that I liked pointing out is that he calls cannabis, specifically says weed, and some people have been like, hey, stop saying weed. We don't like the connotation of that. And he's like, nah, we just got to say it and make it part of the conversation and open it up a little bit. It just got me wondering, like, what did you call it growing up? It's one of my favorite questions to ask because I like the variety of answers.
I think I called it pot. Pot or weed. I want to say I more often than not referenced it as pot. But I mean, I grew up in the time when, they showed you commercials for, this is your brain on drugs with the eggs in a frying pan. So I was very, against weed.
So do you personally think that one has a more derogatory term than the other?
I don't think so. I think in my older age, I would, call it marijuana. I don't know why, but I do call it that, I guess. I think, if you're asking, what's a derogatory, term and for no reason at all, but like reefer, that just sounds like, I don't know, it sounds weird. I think they also called it chronic, at one point or something. I don't know, but, yeah, I think a reefer to me, it just sounds weird. But I mean, as far as derogatory, I don't really see a word that, fits that description specifically.
Yeah, and I kind of like what he's doing with the, no, I'm going to call it what I call it because there is no kind of wrong word for it, if you will, and I'm going to keep calling it weed. And I found that super interesting that he's like, no, I'm just going to keep doing what I do. Thank you, though. And of course, he's going to look back at him and be like, no, I don't think you heard what I said, because he'd just stand up and I'd shit my pants.
Exactly. You do what you want, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Another fun fact that I pulled out of this that I thought was great, like I knew that we were making money, of course. Every time I go to my local place, there is a line. I'm not sure if I've ever just walked up and walked in, depending on the dispensary that I've been to. And sometimes they can run out altogether and shit, but it says here in this, over the past 13 months, we've generated $910.3 million in cannabis sales, which is fucking crazy if you think about it.
Well, and that's why I've been so outspoken about, the legalization. I know it's obviously medical. We're good there, but as far as the amount of money we've made on, medical marijuana, I've been a big advocate for, recreational because we both live in Pennsylvania and I feel like, our state can benefit from the tax revenue from it. Help our schools out and help our, homeless and everything. Like there's a lot of places that money can go. And what's frustrating more is the fact that there's states around us that have, legalized it that way. And I don't know, I kind of feel like it loses its luster almost.
And that's also what this guy's talking about happening as well in terms of why wouldn't we do this when most of us are just a few miles away of driving to either New York or New Jersey where it's going to be. And it might as well just, why are we waiting to pull the trigger on this is something I think they're waiting for the federal level.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Wolf, I think it was 2014, saying he just wanted to kind of sit back and wait and see what states like Colorado did and how they handled it. But at that time, they were flourishing. I think their state actually had one day a year, if not more, where they'd have a tax-free day where you encouraged to go out and, purchase items. And, it was a free day of, taxes, so to speak. And I was just tired of him oh, well, let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see. Let's continue to be behind the times. Let's continue to be the butt of that joke in Pennsylvania that we always continue to be, and that we're, 10 years behind the rest of the world. And it's just can we be first at something for once? How about we stop patting ourselves on the back for, our heroin problem. Not that we're patting ourselves on the back, you know what I'm saying, but it's just frustrating. It's just really frustrating to see. And, I think it's going to happen eventually, but, again, just late to the game.
Yeah, especially when that 910 could be, how much do you think? Another 100% on top of that if it goes to, what's it called, recreational? 100% more people show up?
I think so.
That would be insane. I think so as well. Why not get into that and fix some of these fucking roads? I know that's what probably 100%, I'm willing to bet that 100% of podcasters in every state complain about their roads. But everybody, we really need to get some roads done, especially around here. I find it quite bad. It's pretty insane, actually.
Well, the problem is, Nick, Pennsylvania is also, I feel, this is my opinion, I'm entitled to that right, it's a corrupt state. And I feel like the tax revenue from that would find its way into someone's pocket, and it wouldn't go to the places it should or needs to go. I hope that's not the case if it ever happens, but, it's hard to be positive sometimes when you see so much corruption and negativity and, just things not being addressed the way they should be.
And it'll especially help out clean the legal system out a little bit too. This is a number that I couldn't believe. I really honestly couldn't believe this. So more than 20,000 people were arrested for cannabis offenses during the pandemic. That was crazy. When I was reading that, I was thinking from the year blank to blank, I was thinking it was going to be at least 5 years. I don't know. From 2016 to 2021. But no, it was just during the pandemic. 20,000 people, that's fucking crazy. And they're not all incarcerated, but still somebody had to go and put them into the system and fingerprint them and shit. It all went into taxpayer time and all that shit, right?
Yeah, man, it's a business too at that point. It's, I don't know. I wish I had all the answers. I don't want to sit here sounding like I know how to fix the world's problems, because I do not. But I mean, I think there are people who can and should, and we'll have to wait and see. Because those small offenses too, leave them alone.
Yeah.
But I started a campaign. Well, not really, but I said we should start a campaign. You mentioned potholes in the roads. Pot for potholes.
What do you think that's gonna? Well, go ahead.
I'm down. I'm just gonna start a campaign, and create a campaign, t-shirts and pot for potholes. Legalize pot to fix the potholes.
Oh, okay. Now I understand. Sorry.
Potholes.
I will buy the first t-shirt and then I'll buy the second t-shirt too, so I can wear them every other day and clean one while I wear the other one. Cause that's fucking amazing. That would totally work. Just to kind of finish up with this guy too, and just how awesome and badass he is. He quotes to kind of end this isn't controversial. Canada, the whole country, has legalized, and somehow they managed to keep doing pretty darn well. They haven't descended into anarchy, I'm just what a good fucking point.
Yeah. I mean, there's still people that I know who think that people are going to become pot addicts. And if they've read any kind of research or any kind of study, pot is not addictive. I don't think there's ever been an overdose of marijuana.
Never. No.
There's not people out in the streets, scratching their face and their arms because they're jonesing for, some pot or marijuana or whatever you want to call it. Doesn't happen. So I don't know what everyone's afraid of.
Yeah, really. What is it? I think it's just a loss of revenue, a loss of things coming in and just having to socially accept it and say, no, this is what it is. But
we were brainwashed. Nick,
yeah.
We were brainwashed forever.
Were you shown Reefer Madness in school?
I don't remember. I remember just the commercials on TV. It was, the cracking the eggs into the frying pan and this is your brain on drugs. And it was like, oh shit, like, I don't want that. I don't want my brain to be fried. Like, as a kid, like, that's what you see and that's what you kind of just compare it to. And I was straight edge for a long time. It wasn't until I actually was dating a girl, and not that I was ever the kind of guy who was like, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that, but I was very like, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke pot, and I didn't want my girlfriend to kind of be in that lifestyle either, because I was on, I came from like, that's bad for you. And she broke up with me, and that may have had something to do with it, like just because I was like anti-weed. But that's when I did it for the first time. It was like, what's so great about this drug that you'd want to throw away, a relationship over? So that's why I actually, partook for the first time ever. Was because of that. But yeah, I mean, I grew up with, pot's bad. Drugs are bad, okay?
Okay, yeah. My one that I grew up with was the deflated girl in the chair.
Okay.
Do you remember that one?
Yep.
And she's just then like, she can't hear you. She just sits there all day. And then my favorite is Family Guy kind of riffed on it, and Stewie is the one narrating it, and at the very end he goes, I got a bit of a contact high, and then he deflates, and he's like, oh, I'm all fucked up too now.
Yeah, it's funny how, the government spent a lot of money in those ad campaigns, and I should probably know more about the history of it than I do, and I forget, was it Nixon who was kind of like, but didn't they say I forget, they kind of like painted a picture where like these people who smoked pot would like rape women and things like that, and I don't know. I could be very wrong. Maybe I'm high right now. I don't know.
Is it a contact high through the Skype meet, do you think?
I mean, I don't know what you're doing right now, but again, I'm not good at it, so I'm going to stick to my my beer. But I didn't do this on purpose. This is actually a complete accident. This is a Sierra Nevada, and it's a Dankful IPA.
Very nice, yeah.
I did not do that on purpose. I just saw it, and I'm like, wow, this is perfect. It was meant to be.
One time we went over here, did you know that the marijuana and hop plants are actually cousins? Okay. That makes sense. When you look at them, it really does have a very distinct kind of like, hey, look at that. Were you the producer on the NEPA Scene podcast when we had the, it was by New Belgium, the Hemperor it was the name of the beer was called the Hemperor. And I popped the top of that, and it smelled exactly like weed. Like, I could not believe how much it smelled like weed. And, I mean, hops and weed do tend to smell very similar. Yeah, so it makes total sense, but they are cousins. The Hemperor, what a great name. Anyway, sorry for that small little tangent. That's what we do here. That's what we're doing. In the bud section, I usually also like to bring up what I'm smoking, so I did just recently go and grab an eighth of Franklin Labs Honey Badger Haze. And yeah, this one too, if ever it comes to the fact where a camera could give you a smell, you'd be able to smell this now that I opened it. It's pretty pungent. There you go. Did you get any of that? I did. I think weed has an incredible smell. And again, you grow up and you smell skunks, and it's like, oh, the turnoff. And then you get older and you smell weed, and like, oh, that is glorious. It really, yes, I can appreciate that notion absolutely 100%, because I couldn't agree more. It is amazing. One of the things I learned here in Pennsylvania, so if you go to states where it's recreational legal, you can go to a counter and they'll be like, oh, here, and pop the top and be like, ooh, smell. And we can't do that here because of something to do with the FDA or something of that sort. So I miss that. I miss trying to go in and smell something before I bought it, but it also leads to a fun surprise, kind of like a Wonder Ball almost, like, what's inside? I don't know. But
well, that's what I thought was so cool. My first experience with, legalized recreational weed was in Colorado, 2014. And you go to these places called dispensaries. And my buddy lived out there. We were there for his bachelor party. And I just thought it was really cool because you walk in and, the guy behind the counter, is knowledgeable in what the strain can do. And it's like, it was neat because they have all these names and different styles. They got the indica, the sativa. And he was saying like, oh, well, if you guys don't want to melt into your couch tonight, avoid this. But if you guys want to kind of like, stay level, but kind of like, feel good, like have this. Like, so the idea that, there's people that are knowledgeable in the effects that, this plant has, and it can take you to places that you want to go, I think is really, really interesting, and you're not, trying to score an eighth from, some loser in a back alley, that, had maybe filled it with oregano or whatever it might be. Like, it's a culture. It's an experience. It's a tax revenue. It's a lot of different things, and it can be very, what's the word? Just, cool to experience.
That's what I love about the medical process so far. We have had some limits, but like you said, in terms of people that can help you out and boards and different things and help, that's there. So I'm really excited to see the next step of getting us recreationally legal and then getting us federally legal and just everybody being like, it's weed, it's legal. Yeah. Let's put that to bed and end this bullshit.
Yeah, but did you see, there was, and this is not a good, there's probably more to the story, but recently, I think it was locally here in PA, maybe even local to our area. There was a car crash, a deadly car crash, and I guess the driver, I wish I had a fact checker to check this out, so I'm not speaking like an idiot, but I guess the driver was high. Now, she was also 81 years old, I believe. It seems strange to me, the whole thing, but that's the first time I've heard like that kind of scenario. I mean, at least around here.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into that article as well. It does sound a little bit strange. So we always say here as well, don't do that. Handle your high and definitely don't drive a car until you know you can.
It's like anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking A.
Don't drink and drive. Don't smoke and drive. Don't pop pills and drive. Don't drive intoxicated. End of story.
Perfect. That's a great way to close on out of this bud section. And with that, we can head into the bros section.
What are you drinking?
Dr. Pepper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So inside this bros section today, I kind of teased at our opening that you yourself, we met through podcasting. You yourself are a podcast host, and I wanted to go through some podcasting stuff. If I had a quarter for every time I said podcast this episode, we'd be sponsored, but I promise not to try to say it too many more times. Podcast. Do you want to talk about the podcast that met us? That met us? No, that was a weird sentence, but I think
introduced us.
Thank you. Yeah, there you go.
Introduced us.
See, I told you he was a professional guy. It's not just floundering around.
I wouldn't say that. I can barely speak. But, so we were introduced as part of the NAPA Scene podcast, which the NAPA Scene is an online publication run by the talented Rich Howells. And it's just basically an online entertainment source for things that are going on in and around our area. And Rich was the editor for a publication called The Weekender when I was the general manager there. He left there, started his own thing, asked me if I wanted to be a part of the NAPA Scene podcast, and the rest is history. That's, we were fortunate where it was filmed and recorded at the Cole Creative offices in downtown Wilkes-Barre. And our friend and the gentleman we're talking to, Nick James, was our producer. And young man in college, learning the ropes, and He was the man behind the scenes, making sure we sounded the best we could, and that's how we met.
That was a fun thing to really get into, first of all. Like, it was, or first off, kind of doing anything for anybody where they're like, you're going to touch these buttons. And I was like, okay. And you guys had an opening and then multiple cameras. So I got to call and take shots, multiple microphones. Like, it was legit. It was legit, first of all. And then it was one of the funnest things of just like, all right, this is fucking cool. It introduced me to a lot of different technologies, a lot of things that I've incorporated I did some online shows too, Nick's Nerd News, where I did kind of, read the news of nerd shit, if the name didn't fucking spell that shit out, and used a lot of that. And even some of the tricks that I learned there are right in front of you here. And that was one of the coolest things to get into. Yeah. And it was right down the road from college as well. So I'd get out of class, come down there and do it. And I met a lot of cool people, got introduced to a lot of cool music. Shout out, still listen to Sender Quest almost every day.
What a great band. What a great band.
I really love them. So let's go listen to them too out there. And then now, if you could please talk about your current podcast. Plug that up.
Yeah, so the podcast that I have now is called the Popko Project. So I've been podcasting since 2017 when I started with Rich, March of that year. And I had a radio show, as you mentioned earlier. It was called Alt Natives on Alt 92.1, and what that was an hour's worth of local music to our area on a local radio station, which was pretty neat because, for a radio station to offer the airtime to play, local music, it's a pretty big deal. Now, it was a Saturday night at 9:00, so it wasn't like the radio, the drive time, it's 6 to 8 or 4 to 6 and things like that. But, it was still an hour of, exposure for local artists. And I did that for about 3 years. And I also, in conjunction with the radio show, I started a podcast called Alt Natives After Hours. Because what I wanted to do was I wanted to use, instead of just having that hour a week on the radio, I wanted to have a space where I could talk to bands at length about who they are, where they came from, what they do, why they do what they do, and kind of get more of a better idea of who they were as people. Because like you can do a radio interview, but it's that 2-minute cookie cutter bullshit. It's how did you get your name? Okay, you have a record coming out soon. When is that? Oh, you have a show to support that. When is that going to be? That boring shit that people care about it, but it didn't give me an idea of who that band was. So I started the podcast as an extension of the radio show, and it was twofold. It was an opportunity to, give the bands more exposure, and it also kind of extended the life of what Alt Natives was outside of the 1 hour a week. Plus, for anyone who doesn't know, I am a huge fan of Joe Rogan, and I wanted to have a podcast, so I kind of just forced my way into it. And I had stopped doing the show with Rich for no particular reason, but I wanted to have a space to continue kind of having that life, and so I started the podcast there. But November of 2020, that radio station that was home of Alt Natives, which was called Alt 92.1, decided to change formats. And for 2 months, they played 24 hours of Christmas music. Let me repeat that. Starting on November 1st, they decided to play 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of Christmas music. So 2 months worth of Christmas music. Now, that was also strategically done because they wanted to change the format of the station, so they were able to use that as time to prepare for the launch of the rebrand So I understand that. Again, I'm not a fan of Christmas music for more than a week. So to have it for 2 months on the station I once loved was it was a hard pill to swallow. So at that point, I was left without a radio show. I was left with really just a void for me. And it's funny, and if I'm talking too long, I apologize. But when that show ended, I knew I wanted to do something else. I knew I wanted to continue providing a platform for the local musicians. My cat is in my face meowing, so stop that. But in the same sense, I realized that I feel like I think I needed the scene more than the scene needed me. I felt empty. Like I felt like, that hour of the week was like my favorite hour of the work week that I did not get paid for. So I was like, how can I continue to, do something to support these artists? That's not good. Cat decided that she wanted to play with a light bulb. And if that goes on the floor, that's going to break. Sorry. So I wanted to continue to have a place for, support of these local artists, because before I started the radio show, there were tons of bands that were not, so I should back up. There was another local station, playing local musicians, and he had been doing it for maybe 15 to 20 years. But there were artists that were not given the light of day. There was the Send Requests, the Gus the Savages, the S Dakotas, who else? A Fire with Friends, Amanda Rogan, Maine the Medicine. Probably 30 to 40 bands that would never have been given the light of day. And I'm confident and I'm proud of the fact that I created something and gave them a platform to be featured on the radio and have their music, exposed to people. But again, going back to the podcast, I was like, okay, now I have no radio show. I have the thing I love the most was taken from me. How do I continue to be, a platform for these artists? So I started my own podcast. I started the Popko Project, and I launched it with a campaign, called, Shirts for the Scene, which was a local kind of fundraiser for bands. I gathered over 100 different band logos and put them on T-shirts, and we sold them in conjunction with Axelrad Screen Printing in Wilkes-Barre. And we raised over $8,000 that went back to the artist. So, like, Nick, if you had a shirt, if you were, let's say, you were in like Nick in the IPAs, let's say that, and I bought your shirt, the proceeds from the shirt would go back to you. So we raised over $8,000 that went back to the local music community, and I'm really proud of that too. But that was just a kind of a launching pad for the Popko Project, and continuing to do interviews for with these bands, and if they have a CD coming out, they can we can sit down for an hour or whatever and talk about that. But also, again, who they are and what they do and why they do what they do, and maybe some struggles that they may have gone through to get to where they are, and things like that. But the podcast is music focused. I want to say 80% of it is for music, but the other 20% is just talking to cool people doing cool things. People doing things to benefit our area, to who are doing cool things like like a chef or a barber or a tattoo artist or anyone trying to make a difference and make our lives here in our area better than where they found it.
I tugged my beard there for that mention of that beard guy too. That was a good episode. I like that one. What was his name?
Oh yeah. Paul. Yeah, he actually just sent me a beard package today. I didn't open it yet.
Ooh.
But yeah, so if anyone's out there listening, they need some beard care. Bluebeard's Original. Bluebeardsoriginal.com. He was, this, but if anyone listened, he was he started back in 2005, so he was before the beard craze, and he's been pushing since, and If you like what you see there, you can use the code word Popko, Popko, and get 15% off your order.
I like that.
Yeah.
Did you know the championships are coming here?
Yes, I did.
Talk about that there? I don't remember. I'm sorry.
No. So I forgot to bring it up. So it's funny too. I talked to him and I wanted to do an online NEPA's Best Beard contest, and I might still do it. And I forgot about that thing that's coming. But that's like a beard and mustache thing, and it's actually like a physical, thing that you have to go to. So maybe I'll still do the online, NEPA's Best Beard thing, but because I want to do I got a few prizes lined up as far as what the winner could to win. But I started planning that and I saw that. I'm like, shit, is that going to look like I'm trying to piggyback on that, or I don't know. We'll see.
A, I want to join and compete. B, it's the 2021 Honest Amish National Beard and Mustache Championship.
Yep.
So September 10th and 11th in Scranton, if anybody wants to know. Now, believe it or not, I printed out. I'm actually a member. You can go to their website and join Beard Team USA and print something out, and I couldn't laminate it because I don't have a laminator, so I taped it. And it's in my wallet as a grown adult. I swear to fucking God. I might go. I might go.
Why not? What else are you going to do?
Well, exactly. What the fuck else am I going to do? I don't know. So I have a few questions here. I definitely enjoyed your spirit in this telling of your origin story, really, which was really super awesome and on brand. It was like a comic book story. The whole time I was thinking about it, I was like, this is awesome origin story stuff, bro. Anyway, I liked that you were like, I wanted a podcast, so I forced myself into it, or forced it upon the world. I wanted it, I made it, and now it's here. I fucking like that type of attitude, bro. I really enjoy that, and I like hearing that. That's how I feel. Kind of the same about this. Though I love Joe Rogan, my kind of guy was Kevin Smith, believe it or not. And just kind of he has one I want to do, and he's telling people to do it, just fucking do it and shit. Yep. So I definitely appeal and definitely... Well, we're on the same wavelengths with that. I like that. So what episode are you on now?
Of my podcast?
Yes, sir.
I think I have 46 that are released, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the main places. But I had 42 episodes of Alt Natives After Hours recorded before that got canceled, and I had over 100 with Rich at NEPA Scene. So I probably have over close to 200 under my belt.
It's impressive. That's
a lot
of fucking episodes.
Yeah, answer your question for the Popko Project, 46, and I have 2 recorded that are ready to go as well. Fucking cat, man.
That's why, honestly, sir, it's why I don't fuck with them. I find cats cute for the most part. It really depends, because there are some cats that, are scary cats. Mostly the ones with the giant eyebrows, or, just the weird eyes that are just... I don't fuck with those. But, my sister has a cat. His name is Colby. I like that cat. But the fact that, they get up on stuff and try to fuck with stuff, I'm just stop it. I can't deal with that.
Yeah, for anyone listening, I'm sorry. I was replacing light bulbs, so I had a loose light bulb that I didn't get to throw away yet, and then I had a package of light bulbs, and this asshole cat is trying to knock all of them off the bar that I'm sitting at here. So it's dude, chill the fuck out.
What's its name?
Oh, this cat's name is Mooch.
That's a great name.
Yeah, we rescued her from outside. It was one of the coldest winters we had in a long time, back in 2015, and she was coming up to on our back deck, and of course my wife eventually started putting food out, and we put a styrofoam cooler with a blanket because we don't want it to freeze, and eventually it made contact, and then I remember I'm like, no, we're not bringing the cat in because we have a cat and it's diabetic, and there's enough problems there. We're not bringing a cat in. But the cat, once it made contact, it sat outside the sliding glass door, and as it was meowing, little puffs of air, cold air, were coming out of its mouth, and I mean,
it's some shit out of Dickens, bro. Yeah.
I could be an asshole, but I'm not I'm not a true asshole. And that broke my heart. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess bring it in. Here we are.
If something could put a cat in this house, it would be that same image of it just meow and just watching the meow.
Yes.
Reminds me of a cartoon too, like the meow would freeze as it kind of came out of its mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fucking funny.
That's where I am now. I still have a diabetic cat. Actually just celebrated his 17th birthday. He's been diabetic for 9 of them, and my vet has no idea how this cat is still alive after being diabetic for 9 of them. But again, here we are.
That's amazing. I love that.
Insulin shots twice a day. That's expensive. And inconvenient. I mean, I have cats because cats are pretty independent. You know, you put food and water out, they shit in a box, you clean it twice a day, no big deal, right? Unless your cat is diabetic. So then when you leave, if you want to go on vacation, I don't care if it's 4 days. Now you got to pay. I pay someone to come and give it insulin in the morning and in the evening. So not only does my vacation cost money to travel to, hotel rooms or whatever it might be that I'm doing, I have an added expense to make sure this cat gets its insulin.
Do I want to know how it gets its insulin?
Just syringes. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, dude, some cats get suppositories, and then I was wondering how much you had to pay somebody to put insulin up a cat's ass. And
no.
That's where I was trying to go there.
Yeah, it was funny because at first it was a challenge for sure. It was even like a challenge, like he would hear taking the cap off of the syringe and correlate that with a needle being stuck in the back of my neck. But I think it got to the point where he understood that he needed it because he if I forgot, because initially when it was first happened, I would forget that I had to administer this insulin. And he got to the point where he'd come over and kind of sit down and just stare at me like, bro, are you going to do the thing? Because I'm kind of crashing here. So.
It's smart. We have to put some rub on him every now and then under his arms just because he gets all, I don't know, what's the word? Allergen-y? Jesus, okay. I'm just fucking 0 for 0 in terms of pulling words up today. You wouldn't think that I knew big words. Fuck me. Anyway, he hears that from the cap, and he's off, dude. He's not having that shit. So lastly, to finish on up here in this bros section, I was wondering if you had any advice out there. This right now is somebody's first podcast that they're listening to, or maybe their billionth, and they're like, maybe I should start a podcast. What would you say? What would you tell them is the first step to do it?
Just do it. Do it, man. You can go out and buy a silly, little, it's not hard to get into. So, but if you wanted to make it sound good, which I have my own issues with that, and I'm working on it, but you can start with a small little microphone. I think Walmart, you can buy it for $25. And I don't know how well it works, but it's a great starting point. I think this Yeti that I'm using here was $95, and it serves its purpose for what I do right now. You've got a nice setup there with what you got going on, but it's there's no one stopping you from doing it except for yourself. There's literally no one. No one is saying oh, Nick James, you can't start a podcast because XYZ. Literally no one. I'm a perfect example. I can barely speak, face to face with people. I mumble my words a lot. I have no business having a podcast. I have no business being on the radio, but I'm doing it. Hopefully I'm getting better as the years go on. And, if for nothing else, you just do it for you. Listen, we're not going to be the next Joe Rogan. He's, 1 in a million. But you can definitely create something that you're passionate about. You can even, you don't even need to interview guests. You can just talk to yourself if you wanted to. There's no limitations on submitting it to the streaming platforms. You can do it. There's a million podcasts, and if you're passionate about it, if you come across as genuine and, that you love doing it. I think people will react to that and appreciate at least that, if nothing else. That, hey, this person took the risk, they took the chance, and they're doing what they want to do, and you can't fault them for that.
Fun, great words of wisdom inside that bro section. Thanks so much for going through your origin story in podcasting, dropping some great podcasting knowledge. But we are going to head on out of this bro section and go into the superhero section, where it's all about the bat, people. I love me some Batman. First I'm going to start this off with a little bit of knowledge. Just in case anybody doesn't know who Batman is, I don't know if I need to do this, but we're going to anyway. Batman is a fictional character that was created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. When I read this article, I was so happy Bill Finger was involved or was mentioned in it. I'll tell you why in a second. First appearing in DC Comics, Detective Comics, yeah, that doesn't make sense, 27 in May 1939. His alter ego, Bruce Wayne, an American philanthropist, billionaire, and ladies' man who owns Wayne Enterprises, witnessed his parents being murdered when he was only a child, and as a result, he swore to get revenge on the criminals while taking an oath of maintaining a sense of justice. He reigns to become Batman, mentally and physically, and with the help of his butler Alfred and sidekick Robin and the police commissioner Jim Gordon, he pursues criminals and brings them to justice. Again, I don't know if people don't know who the fuck Batman is, but that was a very small little lowdown on him. What was your introduction to Batman?
So I remember as a young child watching the old Batman, Adam West Batman. But what really, took it to the next level for me was the 1989 film Batman with Michael Keaton. I remember, so I was 7 at the time when it came out, and I remember, well, probably 7 because it came out in the theaters, and then I remember, my parents going to the local video store. Now, I grew up in the country, so we had one video store, and, there may have been 15 copies of, the popular releases. I don't remember, but, my parents were, asked, what movie we wanted to see. Or not we, because my brother at the time was probably 2, but, what movie we wanted for the Friday night movie. And, I wanted to see Batman. And I remember they came home and they said, oh, we thought this would have been better. And they said they got some different movie. I forget what it was. And I lost it. I was devastated. I'm like, how could, why would you do that? I wanted to see Batman. Why did you think, I remember being crushed. But my parents, being the cool parents that they were joking with me. And they actually got Batman. I remember that being one of the highlights of my childhood was, being duped, but then my parents coming through and actually getting me the movie I wanted to see so badly. And looking back on it, now I was 7 years old. Is that a good movie for a 7-year-old to be watching? I don't know, but whatever.
Personally, I'd let a 7-year-old watch Batman. I would not let a 7-year-old watch Batman Returns. I would wait for that one, only because Danny DeVito gets a little gross in that.
He was. Well, I mean, the follow-up to that, Batman Returns 3 years later. So at that point I was 10, and I don't remember, I don't know at what age little boys, begin to get excited by women. But I remember seeing Michelle Pfeiffer in that Catwoman outfit and being very impressed.
Oh, yeah. For me, I can fully say it was 410. Kimberly Hart, a.k.a. Amy Jo Johnson, the Pink Ranger. She was my first ever crush, and that was well before fucking 10. So
yeah,
you're good in that area of I probably saw that too. And I was like, this is why I want to watch it. But I specifically remember my folks weren't as cool about either of them, because by the time I was really able to pick and watch movies, Forever and Robin, so Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, were available. So when you look at the 4 choices and a little kid who's 7 or 8, they went, I watched Batman Forever to death, sir. I watched that one so many times you have no idea. So I didn't start watching the older ones until I was older.
Yeah. Yeah, those the Batman and Robin and the one also around the same time. Was it Batman Forever? You said that's when they kind of got a little weird, got a little goofy. George Clooney, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Iceman, I think it was, or Mr. Freeze rather. They got weird at that moment, but then I feel like they kind of redeemed themselves when Christian Bale started with that series. I really enjoyed those 3 movies he was in. I think it was 3, right? And I really haven't gotten into them after that. I didn't get into the Batman vs. Superman. I am excited for the new one coming out, I guess next year, I guess it is now. With that guy from
Pattinson.
Yes, I'm kind of excited for that.
Pattinson as Batman, yes. Yeah. Dude, that trailer that we did get one trailer. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say for or against because that trailer is fucking dope.
Yep. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'll definitely check that out. But yeah, I mean, I just remember, Michael Keaton and you had Jack Nicholson as a Joker. Danny DeVito was legendary as the Penguin. And I guess we mentioned Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, goddamn.
Now, at that time, were you into the Batman the Animated Series? I'm trying to gauge how old you were by doing the math of the hints you dropped and couldn't do it.
I never got into the cartoon stuff. I never got into comic books. I don't know why. I just never did. And even going into like the Batman versus Superman, like the stuff just gets, for me, it just gets too, I call it spacey or too like, I don't know. It just, I can't say unrealistic because, I mean, the whole premise itself is unrealistic, right? It's a man dressed as a bat. But,
there's a line between fantasy and sci-fi, and they fuck with that line a lot.
Yeah,
I'm trying to hear maybe.
Yeah, that's
that for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, that helps explain it a little bit better than I can. But
because I totally see that from BBS and even Man of Steel, where they really push into the sci-fi element of it rather than just like, he's a strong guy. Let's not worry about why. Let's just fucking do it.
Yeah. Man of Steel was, I tried watching that too. And like the first 10 minutes, I'm like, this is too much. I can't do it. I'm a big, I was, Christopher Reeve. I was totally into that series when I was growing up but.
If I were you and do you have HBO Max by chance?
I don't believe so.
If you do, and you can watch the Snyder Cut, that's some good Batman in that. I mean, it's top grade Batfleck for sure. It's very good. And it also has all the Batman the Animated Series, and I kind of brought that up too because kind of harken back to me being younger. I was really, I don't want to admit it, but it is true that I love Batman and Robin. And I thought Mr. Freeze was cool. As a 30-year-old, I'm like, yeah, no, this shit's really fucking lame and it's kind of hard to watch. But as a kid, I was like, every ice pun I thought was great. I was like, get it? It's nice. Like, I was like, again, to bring up Family Guy, like the guy who's always like, oh, it's funny because he's made of ice. Oh, like that was me as a kid, just like, oh, it's supposed to be nice to meet you, but he said ice to meet you. Oh, I fucking love that. Chill, because he's made of ice.
Right. Here's what I will give. Was it Batman Forever or Batman and Robin? I think it was Batman Forever. The soundtrack, I think both those actually were fantastic soundtracks. I'm not sure if you are familiar with them at all or not.
Oh, yeah.
Seal, Kiss from a Rose.
That's what I was going to say. I have a total Pavlov in my own brain of that where I hear ba-da-da-da-da, and my brain just goes, Batman Forever. I like that.
I think R. Kelly was on one of them. I mean, as goofy as they were, and I mean, I still watched them. I remember being on vacation in North Carolina with one of my best friends, and I was 8th grade, I think it was. That trip was synonymous with Batman and the soundtrack. And what's cool for me for like Batman in general was just like there's different points in my life when the new quote unquote new Batmans were like you had the Batman with Michael Keaton, then you had Batman with Val Kilmer, then you had Batman with Christian Bale. Like they were all almost like very pivotal points of my life. Like I was, for regular Batman, I was young. I was like, like I said, like 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it was. Then the next series, I was in junior high. And then the next series, I was early college. So like they were all like really big growing points of my life and significant points in my life. So it's just kind of cool to look at it that way where different actors played different roles and I was at different points in my life, and it's kind of it's probably not cool to anybody else, but I think it's kind of neat.
Oh, dude, you're talking to the king of that. I can't agree with you more. I remember almost as if it was yesterday. Myself, Roy, who's been on the show, and Joe went to Lowe's Theater in Mountainside, New Jersey, sat in the first 3 seats on the second row in the third shelving, if that makes sense. So it's like a thing of seats. So we were fucking close, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry. Right. And just sitting like this, the audience can't see, but I'm crunched and looking up and not giving a fuck. Cause I was like, this is awesome. For Batman Begins, I'm sorry if I didn't make myself clear on that one. For the first Chris Nolan one, I feel like I launched right into the middle of that story. Let me come back around to the beginning of me and my 2 friends saw Batman Begins, and that shit, I remember that. I remember that time in my life, and yeah, I feel exactly what you were saying with that sentiment of like they were pivotal times of this character taking over.
Well, funny story that you mentioned that you were in the front, almost the front row, and not caring. I think it was the coolest thing ever. I bring this up to my wife to this day. We just started dating, and when we first started dating, my wife had no concept of time or being on time for anything, or she'll probably kill me for saying this if she hears this, but like respecting, like we were meeting people at the theater to see, I want to say it was 2008, so whatever Batman that was, it was still Christian Bale, but we were meeting people in the theater, and she was just taking her sweet ass time getting ready. And I'm like, we need to get there early because this is going to sell out. So not only did I not want to like not get a ticket, I also didn't want to sit in the front. I wanted to see this movie like middle section or even in the higher, but no. So we're like one of the last people in the theater, first fucking row. Again, people can't see what I'm doing, but yeah, like just neck, crunched up, terrible. Still to this day rag on her for that. She's much better. She's much better. She's always on time. But yeah, I just remember that just being terrible.
That would have been then The Dark Knight. So yes, the Heath Ledger Joker one.
That's the one, yep.
And for that one, shout out to my dad, Big Game James. We went to the Liberty Science Center, where they have an auditorium that's a sphere, and they play IMAX movies that takes over a little bit less than 360. I don't know. 280, a number less than whatever. And those seats are meant for like 5th graders on a fucking trip to go watch a 10-minute thing about the ocean or some shit. So that was a long movie. Maybe it was actually Rises. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to jump one more movie, and it was The Dark Knight Rises, because now I'm thinking about Anne Hathaway. That's how it was, yes. Anyway, still the same story in the fact of, for that movie, which I think is like 2 hours plus, we were in seats like this fucking big, but it was dope. The seating was intense, but we were in such a great spot that I swear it was literally like this. So if you think of Anne Hathaway on the bike, like the back tire was all the way over here.
Yep.
And then it stretched all the way here, and it was worth sitting like that for the longest time.
Yeah, but you had to literally look back and forth to see the entire screen. It's like terrible. I don't know. I mean, you're a trooper, but for me, I guess I was a snob at that point. I was like, this is bullshit. But I had someone to blame too, but whatever.
I saw that movie more than once. I saw it here before I even lived here. Before I even worked at Cinemark, I was here. I came out here to visit my sister who's lived here much longer than I, and we went there. I always think that's funny. One more quick second. I'm sorry to jump back to the Liberty Science Center, but we walked out, and anybody's spoilers for The Dark Knight Rises right now. Joseph Gordon-Levitt at the very end goes to pick up shit, and this whole time they've been calling him Blake, Officer Blake, Detective Blake. Maybe they even say John. And he goes to pick up this shit from this lady, and she's like, "Oh, I like your real name. It's Robin." And if you couldn't tell by my snide intro into the story, I fucking hate that. I really honestly hate that. Why'd you have to, cause I'm a huge Robin fan. I love Dick Grayson. I was about to say I'm a huge Dick fan, and then I was like, nope, catch yourself. You don't say those words. But I love Dick Grayson. It's true. I'm sorry. Somebody on the internet can rip that so well. But for them to kind of fuck a Dick Grayson, a Jason Todd, any of them, a Tim Drake even, out of that kind of upset, whatever. But I'm saying this very argument to my dad as we're walking, and this lady is just like, Batman needs his Robin. Of course they were going to put Robin in the movie. And I was like, okay. Sorry, that just popped in out of nowhere.
I forgot about that part.
Now, out of all of them, we have I think we mentioned all of them. Shout out to Adam West, but the Batman movie with him, I'm not talking about today. It is what it is for its time. It is where it is. Can you live with that?
Oh yeah.
Cool. So we are talking about Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian Bale, and right now we can't talk about Pattinson, but we could still bring up Batfleck, but you haven't really seen him. So we're just going to go for the ones before that, okay? We're going to go through Keaton through Nolan verse, which is, Jesus, my names are just bad. Keaton through, I'm doing it again. What the fuck is that Batman's name? Christian Bale. Fuck me. Keaton through Bale. My God. That's what we're going to try to go through. So, who is your favorite Batman of those bunches? Who do you think plays the best Batman?
So, for me, best Batman, I have to stick with Michael Keaton. Just because that was not the introduction to Batman, but that was we talked about Adam West in that series, but that's different. So for me, I have to start with Michael Keaton, and that was my favorite Batman. I mean, not that he looks like he could be more Batman by any means, but it was more. I can't say realistic because none of it's realistic, but I'm just gonna say Michael Keaton.
A lot of me wants to say Val Kilmer for this one. When we open his movie, Two-Face has got a guy trapped in a vault, and they're going to fill it with acid. They're going to pull it from the bank by a helicopter. And Batman, of course, stops this. And the way he does this is he shoots a batarang or a bat clip, whatever the fuck, one of the toys that he has, and cuts the chain. And the safe, with the harness that he put in, swings perfectly back into place. And a lot of people will say that's corny, but to me it's nah, Batman can do that fucking physics like that, dude. It was pretty good. And again, I'm sorry to keep harping on it, but that was my introduction to Batman. So there are stupid lines in that one, like chicks dig the car. I'm just all right, calm the fuck down. Now, as Bill, now as a man, I'm all right, Val, but little moments like that where they're that's stupid and impossible. I'm it's a guy in a suit. Let's stretch a little bit, and that type of stretching is good. I like the math of that scene of him, and I do believe Batman would look at it and be 45-degree angle, then I gotta boom, and just do it.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, I think too, the early ones, maybe this is my age talking, but the Batmobile was just more simplistic. Yeah, it shot fire out of the back, but the shield when it came up, it was just very simple and just kind of encased the whole thing. Even the hell would you call it? Not a plane, but I don't know what to call it. Yeah, he flew it through the sewer or whatever, I think, in the first or second one. I don't know, it was just more again, I can't say realistic. I want to keep saying realistic, but none of it's
rounded almost, might.
I don't know. It was just more. It was simple. It was more, maybe it's more realistic than the others, but like you get into the Christian Bale stuff and like the Batmobile like really wasn't even a Batmobile. It was just like more of a tank. I don't know. I just remember being a kid and just like I remember playing little Matchbox Batmobile cars, and then that was just that's where it all started, I guess, for me.
That's a great segue, if you don't mind, really quick. Like, Batman merchandise is everywhere. They've been putting Batman on everything, and I had so many Batman toys, so many figures that never would do what they did in the shows. Like, I'd have Lava Tech Batman, where he can dip into volcanoes, or like on the Ice Cap Batman, you know, on the flip side of that. And all the time I was watching Batman the Animated Series, like, it's time. It's the volcano episode. It's fucking coming, guys. And he never fought a volcano, but they sold a shit ton of toys. With the movies, too, I definitely had a George Clooney bat plane. So in that one, he flies the plane and then it gets shot. No, maybe this was Forever. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. This was a Batman Forever. So this is a Val Kilmer bat plane, and he flies it and it gets shot down and it hits the water and he just pops off the wings and all of a sudden it's submarine. I had that fucking toy.
Do you remember, and it comes back to the plane. I keep calling it a plane. It wasn't a plane, but when the Joker was using the parade balloons to gas the city, and then Batman came in and he clipped all the balloons and took them up. At one point, I remember this specifically because the way the shape of this plane, I keep calling it a plane, was he went straight up into the sky, filled the moon with like the bat signal image, and then came back down. That was like amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of the Tim Burton stuff that doesn't jive with comics. But in terms of looking, it looks fucking good. And that scene alone is one of those ones where I'm like, don't say anything bad. You can't. Not only that, but Danny Elfman, the composer of that, like, that's Batman's theme. You can't get away from that fucking song. And like, when you hear it, you're just like, Batman's here.
And I think what also kind of makes me like, not turned off by any means, but those two in the mid 90s, you had Val Kilmer and you had George Clooney. It was almost like, I like the fact that Michael Keaton had two. And then after those mid 91s, you had Christian Bale, doing the three of them. It was kind of like a story almost, as opposed to like these two that are kind of goofy, and like you have Val Kilmer and you can't really like fall in love with him because he's just, one and done. And then George Clooney, one and done. So it's kind of like, you don't get a chance to really like fall in love with the character.
Agreed. Yeah, they were both directed by Joel Schumacher, and from what I've heard, on even more reports than this Batman, Val Kilmer's a dick. So I just think that he was just like, nope, not doing it. And George Clooney was up and coming, and isn't that weird to think George Clooney was up and coming? But he was just starting off in ER and shit like that, and he's like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So it is, because the thing that tied them all together, the thing that made it okay for me as a kid was the butler. I can't pull his name. I know respectfully he has passed, so rest in peace, good sir. But the guy who played Alfred played him from all of those until they replaced him eventually with Michael Caine for the Nolan series.
Right.
But that for me as a kid, I didn't care that they kept changing Batman. Because to me, I remember too asking my dad, he's like, yeah, it's kind of like James Bond. Like, it's the same guy, it's just a different actor now. I was like, all right. I'm 6. I don't get what that means, but it didn't matter who was underneath the fucking cowl. I just needed the ears.
Right. I got you.
One last thing with the toy. I'm sorry, but they're going to make a Batman the Animated Series grappling gun replica. And I'm going to have to buy that. It looks really awesome. It's coming from Entertainment Earth. No, it doesn't support your weight. It just looks really cool. And it's just going to be another object in my menagerie upstairs of props that, if they really existed, they'd be dope, but they're just toys.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, dude. If all the props in my room could actually turn into what they are, I could rule the entire world.
You could probably start an army.
Yeah, I've got Thor's hammer. I've got a lightsaber. I can morph into a Power Ranger. It's fucking crazy up there.
You know what's funny?
What's it called? Sorry, a proton pack. I could fight ghosts.
Oh, dude, I used to have a proton pack when I was young. You know, the first proton pack with the foam. I don't know what kind of you have, or if you were even aware of this one that I'm talking about. But
it's blue.
It was blue.
Yeah, and it had like a noodle that came out to make the shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
I remember it was like my prized possession. I was huge. I know we're talking about Batman, but I was a huge Peter Venkman fan, and I had that. And like I remember, like I don't know if I was acting up or whatever, but like that was one thing my parents took from me that like was devastating. Like, you know, like, oh, you just lost your proton pack. I'm like, no.
Rest assured, there's always room for Ghostbusters and Bill Murray on this show. Endless amounts of room. We could start a brand new episode about Ghostbusters now, and I'd keep the whole thing. Especially after that new trailer. Did you see that?
They just released it. They just released it.
So good. So good.
Who do you think is the person who answers the phone at the end saying we're closed?
It's Ray. It says his name out on the front. It's Ray.
Oh, does it?
Bookstore. Yeah.
See, I didn't pay attention to that. I didn't see that. I heard Dan Aykroyd's voice.
Yeah, well, that's Ray Stantz. Dan Aykroyd.
I don't know why I'm thinking of Egon. Jesus Christ. So I was
now,
right.
Who do you think Egon hooked up with to have this baby and this grandkid?
I thought it was, what's her face?
That's what I went to first was what's her face, Annie Potts. But then my friend was like, no, she was with Rick Moranis in that movie. And I was like, that was a good call because I too had forgotten that. But she did hit on him. And he was like, I collect mildew, mold, and fungus or something.
Yep.
But she tried, so who knows? Rick Moranis might have gone away.
Maybe he got punched in the mouth in New York City. Maybe he got punched in the mouth in New York City. And she's like, can't be with this pussy.
Or what if they all suffered from ED, right? And she goes walking around grabbing all their crotches, looking for a hard dick, and she does, and she goes, we got one!
In that annoying voice.
Thank you. Yes, that's my stand-up for the week. I appreciate that.
That's good. I like that.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank you for joining me, man. This has been so much fun. I can't again, sir, say how much I appreciate your time. I know all time is very valuable. You choosing to come here and be on my show is just an amazing thing for you to do. I thank you very much. It's been great. Really good conversation. You dropped a lot of facts. I'm going to say it, but I can't say it enough. Thank you very much, Popko, for coming out and being on my silly little podcast.
Dude, no, when you put out the message to the universe and you said you want to do a crossover episode, I was like, hell yeah. I haven't talked to Nick in a long time. I've always liked your insight of the comic book world and I'll call it nerd stuff. It's not an insult by any means. This is a great time. I appreciate you taking me up on the offer.
Absolutely, and hopefully we'll go down the road. Like you said, we're crossing over. We'll figure that out. Have you back here. There's endless opportunities because this was easy, dude. This was a lot of fun. It was super easy. Thank you again. Thank you to everybody out there for listening. If you haven't already, if you can hit the like and the subscribe and all those fun internet things, you know how they work. It would be very, very appreciated. But if not, if you could just do the word of mouth. Tell a friend, please, because we have a friend who likes Buds Bros of Superheroes. I got a fucking show for you. My name has been Nick James. Today I've been joined with the legendary.
I wouldn't say that, but thank you. Popko, Johnny Popko.
This has been Buds Bros and Superheroes, and we are out of here. See ya.